Welcome everybody to this webinar where we are welcoming new students to Aalto University and talk about the major in signal, speech and language processing. So I see that we have already 2 attendees, so I think we can wait maybe a little bit and then continue. So first we will introduce us. So who are we who are now giving this webinar and talking here? So let's wait 1 more minute if there will be more attendees coming before we start with the presentations. Okay, let's start. So my name is Mikko Kurimo. I'm professor in speech and language processing and head of this major in signal, speech and language processing. I've been in Aalto for quite a long time and doing my PhD here, and then after being postdoc elsewhere, then coming back and joining as a professor here for already more than 15 years. And then we have Esa Ollila. Can you say hello, Esa?
Hello, everybody. Yes, so I'm Esa Ollila, and I'm a professor of signal processing at Aalto University. And I was first, I got my PhD at the University of Jyväskylä in statistics. And then I did my postdoc in signal processing, and I kind of got interested in the field of signal processing, and now I'm here to represent the signal processing track of the major. And I did postdocs also at University of Princeton University in the USA, and I have been also working at Aalto University as a lecturer, and I'm also adjunct professor of statistics at Aalto University. And currently I'm an associate professor at Department of Signal Processing and Acoustics.
Okay, thank you, Esa. Then we have one of our current students, Eli Susan, here. Can you say hello, Eli?
Hello, I'm Eli. So I'm a second-year student at the Signal Processing and Data Science track. And well, I'm at the last courses that I have to do before I graduate, but yes, just a student.
Okay, thank you, Eli. And I learned that you cannot talk to us here in the webinar, but you are allowed to use the chat. So please, you can write any questions what you have there in chat. And also it could be nice if you would write a few words about yourself so that we know that who are we talking to, like where in which country you are from, for example, and what are you interested in. But yes, let's keep going. So the content of today, we will talk about Aalto University, what it is, what kind of campus it has, and where it is in Finland. And then we talk about the SSLP, which is the abbreviation for our major, so signal, speech and language processing. And then we briefly talk about research, what we are doing, and careers, what can be done after the studies, and then the student life here at Aalto. So Aalto University is a multidisciplinary community of bold thinkers where science and art meets technology and business. So it is an interesting combination of different universities. So very long history of Helsinki University of Technology and also University of Art and Design and Helsinki School of Economics. So these very different areas were put together to combine their forces as Aalto University in 2010. So I believe that this is quite unique, not only in Finland, but also in the world, of this kind of combination. And this is a relatively young university now, so we have been around only 11 years, or even though our roots are old. So at Aalto University, you will get more than a degree. So this is one of the world's top universities and also a leader in its field in Finland. It is also very international university, at least in the Finnish scale. So we have lots of international students and also quite many international professors. I think for the latest recruitments, almost half of the new professors are international professors, which is quite rare, I think, in universities. And then we are all in the campus at Otaniemi in Espoo, so this is a quite tight community, even though at the current pandemic situations, many of us are part-time working from home, but still the campus is there and we are meeting each other there quite frequently. And another characteristics of Aalto University is that we have this startup center where many startups that are working together with the university or many of the previous students of the university who have started their own companies. So all of these companies are around in Otaniemi as well, so we can there meet them daily and discuss and plan projects together. And also Aalto offers interesting career possibilities, not just the startups, but of course in research field and also in larger companies, both in Finland and abroad. So I already mentioned the campus, which is close to Helsinki, so it's a 10 minutes metro subway ride from the center of Helsinki, but it's also kind of geographically nice location in a peninsula next to a nature preserve. And it has a nice concentration of very, very good research facilities. And there has been a lot of constructions in the campus recently where the sustainability and carbon neutrality have been at the core of our strategy. And some words about Finland. You may or may know Finland. You may have been here before, but if not, then many people think that Finland is one of the safest, relaxed, and most equal and organized societies what there are. And also the education system of Finland has been quite famous. In the United Nations index, this has been ranked as the happiest country in the world a couple of times. And among the Finns, almost everybody speaks English, so you can conduct your normal daily life, study, and even work in Finland completely in English. I think this is also quite rare in a country where English is not the native language of people. As a system, I think Finland society has pretty low hierarchy, so it is easy to greet professors in the university and even the rector of the university. You can just stop him and have a discussion with him in the street if you meet him. So this is very informal. Maybe the Finnish startup culture as a whole is also something that is of interest, and maybe one of the forerunners in the world in this field. And yeah, by the way, what is happening here in the picture, why this guy is holding a branch of birches in front of his head. So I believe this has to do something with the sauna culture in Finland, but maybe you will discover more if you come here. Some international recognition for Aalto University. So it has been ranked for number 9 in all young universities globally, and 23rd in multidisciplinary and collaborative research, 37th as the most international university in the world, and 47th in advancing responsible consumption and production. So these are all very recent rankings. Okay, so this was about Aalto University and Finland in general. So now a few words about our major. So why are we here? So first of all, our studies have a very strong research orientation. We have top research groups led by well-known professors who also teach and supervise the students. And this is also, I think, a very unique combination of studies, both in machine learning, signal processing, and natural language processing. And our curriculum has also quite a lot of flexibility for personalization, so depending on your areas of interest. And it has very attractive career opportunities, both in Finnish and global ICT companies. So we are talking about the major here. So this is part of the Computer Communication and Information Science Master Program, which is one of the biggest and certainly the most selective master's program in Aalto. In practice, what kind of structure you will find in our program? So very roughly, I wrote here that in the first year you will study the compulsory courses and a few optional courses, and then typically people take summer internship in a Finnish company or in a research group at the university. And then in the second year, you can do more optional courses, or if you rather wish to take some other minor instead, then that is also possible. And then typically during the summer of the second year, or even in spring, you can start a master's thesis. And it's quite common to do the thesis in some of the nearby companies or in the research groups of Aalto. So you are not left alone here. You will have supervisors. And we have 2 different study paths here. So have the signal processing and data science, what ESA is leading, and then speech and language processing, what I'm leading myself. Maybe ESA can now tell something about the signal processing part. Are you there, Esa, still?
I was muted. So if you choose the signal processing track, you will certainly meet all of these 4 professors that are in this picture. So there's myself and Risto Wickman, whose area is communications. Then Sergei Vorobiev, who's expert in optimization methods, radar technologies, machine learning, and Visa Koivunen, who's Aalto Distinguished Professor. He's also working in various topics in signal processing, ranging from statistical learning and inference to radar technologies and many other. And we are having courses in areas like large-scale data science, optimization methods, and so on. So these are the kind of core teachers from the signal processing, but there's a lot of flexibility that you can choose many courses from different departments, and this is the department of or the signal processing group in our department, this department of signal processing and acoustics, and would be happy to talk more about later about the topics you can learn. Thank you, Mikko.
Yes, and here are the speech and language processing part. We have currently 3 professors. I just heard today that we will get a 4th one, so there will be an open position in early next year, which will be filled next year. But currently we have myself, Mikko Kurimo, and then Paavo Alku and Tom Beckström. So all of us are teaching the basic courses. And here I listed actually the courses. I'm not expecting that you read all these, but just as to show that how much compulsory courses there are in either of. So the signal processing track path is on the left side and speech and language processing in the right side. So there is about 20-30 credits for compulsory courses, and then you can choose to add optional courses to make this 60 credit whole, what the major consists of. And it's also possible to do it as a shorter major, like 40 credits, and then select a minor. I don't know if you, Esa, want to say something about the courses.
So thank you, Mikko, but I don't think it's necessary at this point. So
Okay, good. Let's continue.
I think I can take this one.
Yeah.
So all of the courses I've been to always combine a bit of theory with also practical skills. So many courses include project work or assignments which include a practical aspect or real world data or some real problem, also including like cutting edge issues which might not even have a solution. So I think that's something that makes many of the courses very interesting, is that they give you a good basis on the theory while still demonstrating the things that are not yet solved or are not yet known. And well, my perspective is from the signal processing and data science path. So, but it applies also for music and speech as well, is that the mandatory course selection is not very large, and that gives a lot of flexibility on choosing the or like there's flexibility in which courses you choose from your like primary studies, and that makes it possible to shape it to your interests or specialization. Like you can take courses in speech and music also in the signal processing path, and also biomedical or telecom, and obviously artificial intelligence and machine learning. But then there are also courses which are a bit more on the edge, but still very interesting, like user interface design or various topics like that. And then for elective studies, it's always possible to take courses from these other 2 schools as well. So you can also take schools from the School of Business or from the art school. So if you're interested in learning about signal processing, but also having a like commercial aspect, or you have this hope of having an entrepreneurship interest, then you have the possibility to take those courses as well as elective studies. And I think that makes Aalto quite unique, that you can take courses from both your track, but also very different courses at the same time. Okay, yes, we can move on. So I just chose a couple of courses to highlight like the flexibility in this track. So on the first year, I think it's mandatory for signal processing for communications. And this was a course on basic principles of wireless transmission, but the interesting thing was that it had the hands-on. The major part of the course was that you received these software-defined radio modules at home. This was during the Corona peak, and you had to implement algorithms for these devices yourself and test them in the real world with the real world limitations. And then a second course, speech recognition. This was a course with a practical aspect in the form of a project. And I think the interesting thing here was that all the project topics were quite recent, and some of them really were topics that didn't have perfect solutions yet, or weren't very researched, and that meant that you could invent quite a lot yourself. And I've here added to the site this project I did on native language recognition. So I had as input English sentences spoken by people from various countries, and the task was to recognize which native language the person has. So basically recognizing the accent a speaker would have. For example, for me, it would detect I'm speaking Finnish and so forth. And then artificial intelligence. This was the introductory course to artificial intelligence, which was very theory heavy, but then it also included this project, or not a project, but an assignment in which we were supposed to create a bot that would play this game Othello. It's similar to it's a board game, but at the end of the course, all the bots were put to play against each other in a tournament setting, and there wasn't any prizes, but it was still very interesting to compete against other students. I think we can move on.
So maybe Esa could tell about signal processing research. A few words.
Okay, thank you, Mikko. Yes, so I think, in the signal processing group, I think what is interesting is that signal is basically any data. So quite often it's data from different sensors. So it can be, for example, medical images like fMRI scans. It can be signals that are received by radar systems. It can be signals that are, for example, stock prices. So financial time series. So in a way, signal is a large concept. And I would say that because my background was in statistics, which is nowadays called data science, and why I was so interested in signal processing is that it's actually kind of applied data science and machine learning. And it's just that the signals, the concept of signals is just a little bit wider, and it's always just a lot of applications. Basically, also I would say that there are lots of, if you are interested in signal processing, there are multiple options where you can start work. Some of our graduates, they work in finance sector, Some of they go to big ICT companies. Some of them start their own, company or something like that. So there's really a lot of, let's just say, what you are interested in. There's lots of possibilities that you can just focus on that. And I think the important thing is that you learn a little bit of data science, machine learning, and a large spectrum of different signals that you can analyze and learn from the signals, like images, computer vision, radars, and stuff like that. So it's an interesting combination of different fields. It's very applied fields of combining machine learning, applied mathematics, and you will learn a little bit more if you choose this track. Thank you.
Thanks, Esa. So for speech and language processing research, so this is special because it is based on this kind of human-made signal, so speech, so which is by far the most natural and effective way of human communication. And that is the reason why it is so complicated. It has been optimized for human communication, so the optimal speed of transmitting information between humans. And there are also, because it is so effective for humans, so there are many advanced artificial intelligence applications, so including, for example, speech-to-speech translation, robotics, various personal assistants. And as there has been so much success in recent years, so these have very high priority in big companies like Google, Microsoft, Apple, Amazon, Facebook. So they are really investing a lot in this area, and they have large research groups producing very interesting scientific results and also very advanced applications. At Aalto, we have a fairly large research group here, about 30 researchers, where we use the latest methods, and we have also achieved very high benchmarks in international competitions in the field. The future challenge here is trying to represent and understanding real-world spoken conversations between people. So what is there actually? How you can model these and how you can automatically understand what's going on and be able to communicate with humans to make the human-machine communication as natural as possible. In language technology, there are several startups and spin-offs from the university. Just mentioning here a few where my students have either started the company or are working there quite a lot. So we have the Hokema company, where they have a product to learn to pronounce foreign languages through playing and imitation. So you don't need to be able to read any language, you can just learn how to pronounce it. Any companies providing automatic speech recognition services to make meaningful sound and speech accessible for everybody, understandable and actionable. Then Speechly is a company where they provide user interfaces where you don't need to type, you just speak to your phone or your smart speaker and do what you want. And then Linksoft is a bit larger company who has been around for 30 years already, doing translation, subtitling, and transcription services using automatic speech recognition connected with natural language processing. So I wanted to say a few words also about the exchanges and internship possibilities. So in Finland, Aalto's research groups are hiring interns every summer, and also some people like Eeli is now working part-time also during the semester. And also companies take interns for research and thesis projects, which will help you to be employed later. And we also have in our courses many exchange students coming in from other universities. And we also have people from industry, so-called life-wide learning people who are joining the courses to improve their knowledge on recent things. And at Aalto, you can also go abroad and as an exchange student and include the courses that you study there in your degree at Aalto. Maybe Eli can tell the latest news about student life here. Are you still there, Eli?
Sorry, can you hear me now?
Yes.
Student life has obviously been quite different for the past year, but overall, there's, I think, over 100 different student organizations at Aalto, and there's really any topic, and there's more than I know. I'm personally part of a photography club, and but there's also things like sailing, and I think there's also an airplane club if you like flying and sailing and music and culture and debating and really all of the typical things, but also some very, very specific, interesting organizations. And overall, the campus is located to the side of the centrum, but for transportation, it's quite central. So there's the metro line, there's all of the main bus lines, and then Helsinki is now building this light rail, so a faster tram technically, which will travel through whole Helsinki, but also has multiple stops at Aalto itself. And like I mentioned earlier, you can take courses from business and art schools, but they also take courses from our field as well. So in practice, that means that you really get to meet a lot of people studying on very different fields, and that also means that they think about things very differently, and a business student might see your idea as a product where you ignored it completely, or an art student might apply some of your theoretical mathematics to an art project they are working on. So I think that makes Aalto very unique. But I think we can move on.
Yeah, so the admission information, so if you now wish to join us in Aalto, so the application period is opening in 1st of December. So basically you have the month of December time to apply, and there is the link for getting more information about the admission and how to write the application, what are the tuition fees and scholarships available and requirements for admission. Yes, I think that was the slides what we had there here to present you. So now we have about half an hour to answer your individual questions or anything that you would like to ask.
I could add, there was a question about biosignal processing in the signal processing path. I can speak about the courses that are available for that. So like I said, the track is really flexible. I've myself built it completely on artificial intelligence and machine learning because that's my interest. But you could just as easily build it focusing completely on biosignal and medical things. I'm currently on an artificial intelligence in health technologies course, but there's also medical imaging and high throughput bioinformatics and signal processing in biomedical engineering. Those are just a few courses from the track which I know of, but you could easily take at least 6 or 7 different courses in biomedical field. Esa might be able to talk more about about research or other things in this topic?
Yeah, so I think Eli was to the point. So we have built this major, I think, in both tracks in such a way that it's very easy to take courses. So, for example, have biomedical or bioengineering as one of your core topics. So you can take freely these optional courses, and Aalto offers many courses in bioengineering field. So, for example, on medical imaging, on medical signal processing, or all kinds of courses. Or if you are, let's just say, interested in financial engineering, you can steer your interest in signal processing and data science towards your own interest. So it's really totally it's totally possible, and you can certainly choose such courses that are kind of your own interest. So I think that was a very good question, because like Eli said, he's interested in using kind of AI and data science to learn from signals, and that's really possible to build your own course set up in such a way that you learn only interesting things in this track. Mikko, do you have anything other to add about?
Yeah, I think you said everything. So basically, this is surprisingly flexible major. So there are a few compulsory courses that we mentioned. So basics of signal processing, basics of speech processing and language technology. And then there is a list of optional courses, and then we are always considering if the students have their own favorite courses that they want to study at Aalto or actually even elsewhere, for example, in University of Helsinki or in some other universities. So we can always consider adding them in the personal study plan.
I think the courses themselves you can find from the Aalto, from the description of the track. There's the selection of a few, I think 5 or 6 mandatory courses, and then all the optional courses are listed on the page. I'm quite certain of that.
Yes, I was taking the screenshot that I showed of the course listing there from the public website. Okay, Eva provided the link there. Very nice. Okay, so Praven is asking about the requirements. So maybe you mean the kind of official requirements for Aalto University, or would you like to know about the special requirements for our major? I guess for the official requirements, basically you need a bachelor degree. That is it, and that will bring you quite far. And of course, in some of the most popular topics, there will be a selection of only selecting the best students based on different criteria. Then in our major, I think we are quite flexible here. The prerequisites typically are good mathematical background and not that much on signal processing or speech processing. So we are expecting that we will teach them to you. So basically you need to know the basics of mathematics and programming, and we will teach you the rest. Yeah, maybe Esa can answer this question about the master's thesis in an industry in signal processing area. You are muted, Esa.
So actually, many of the students actually work on a thesis in a company, for example, large ICT companies in here in Helsinki, for example, Nokia. I think the past 2 years I have supervised already many master's theses that have been done in Nokia. But then there's also health technology companies where there's a lot of need for signal processing. Then there's other companies like in kind of, let's just say, more data science oriented, for example, NVIDIA and big companies like that. And there are, of course, also local companies here in Helsinki. So I would say that it is quite common to work on a thesis in a company. So I think that it's a very good chance for you to have a thesis project that is done in a company, like a large ICT companies here in Helsinki.
And I think that's a very good way also to kind of secure a good employment after the studies, so that you have already networked with the companies.
So there was a questions of the topics of the thesis. I think the topics of the thesis really depend on which company you go to. But for example, I'm just looking at some topics. For example, I recently supervised some thesis done in a large health technology company that was kind of trying to predict possible problems in cardiac from cardiac signals, like if you have some for example predicting that you have some problems coming in your rhythm, and then trying to kind of, let's just say this is more like preventive method of trying to help the patient before actual problem happens. So this is very big area of research, for example, in health technology, kind of prediction from different kinds of signals like respiratory signals, cardiac signals, and stuff like that. And in Nokia, there has been many theses that has been done now, mainly in machine learning area, that you do some machine learning in a topic that, for example, Nokia can be interested in.
Yeah, I can add also a few topics that comes to my mind what I have recently been supervising in a companies. So there was one big company where the thesis was made in word sense disambiguation in social media posts. So typically they wanted to understand what people are talking about them. So they wanted to understand the different meanings of words used there. And another thesis that I recently supervised was a small company where they were building chatbots, and they wanted to study that what is the best way to ask questions from the user when they don't fully understand what the user means. So when the kind of chatbot gets lost and don't understand what you try to say, then what is the kind of way how to ask a next question, try to figure out the meaning of the intent of the user. So we can still take a couple of more questions if you have any. Now would be a good chance to ask. Of course, you can also send us emails later. Now there is a question about the GPA for selection process and the acceptance rate. So people are applying from many different universities, so it is really hard for us to kind of compare the GPA in different universities and different countries together. Of course, we have some local experts who know certain universities, so they can rate these GPAs, but in general it is quite difficult. But of course, the better GPA, the higher chances, but still it varies quite a lot in different countries. And then the next question is about the acceptance rate. So this is really quite unknown for us, since this is a new major, so there is not really any statistics. I suppose it is, in general, it is not 100% and it's not 10%, maybe around 50% maybe, but it really depends on what kind of students we get. So we obviously try to get the best students what there are. But I suppose that if you have done reasonably well in your bachelor studies and you are working in a good university, then you have high chances of getting selected. Okay, there is this email address admissions@aalto.fi where you can ask all kinds of questions about the admission. So I'm happy that I'm quite sure that the admins are happy to answer anything what you have, or forward it to us professors if they can't answer themselves. If there are no more questions, I think we could finish. Okay, there is one more. The last question came. So how about the workload? Is it too much or moderate? Yes, it depends on where you compare to. I've heard that in some universities they do masters in 1 year, which means that it's an awful lot of work. With us, you have at least 2 years time, so it is a little bit more moderate. But of course, we are expecting that you work hard. So I wouldn't say that it's easy, but I think it's manageable for sure.
I could maybe add that it also depends quite a lot on the topics you work on and what kind of work it is. Some courses are much more intensive because the theory takes a lot of time, whereas other courses are more focused on a project which takes its own type of work and own type of time.
Yes, I think typically students spend most time when they find some interesting project topic where they want to work on, also on their free time. So in those cases, the workload can be quite big, but that's kind of a voluntary thing.
I may add also that there's always a feedback questionnaire after each course where the student can give anonymous feedback. And one of the questions is related to the workload. And that's why it's really important that when you're a student that you actually participate in these course feedback questionnaires. And then you can also, give feedback about the workload. And I would say that all professors and teachers really look at those numbers and then adjust the courses according to those feedback. So I hope that we are getting to kind of reasonable level where we don't require the students to work over the credit that the course is about. So, but that's of course always a balance. And like Mikko said, sometimes the projects are so interesting that the students actually work more than we anticipated, and that's kind of out of our hands.
And some courses even expand on this in a way that there are a few courses where the project can be extended to its own course if it's very interesting. So the course is 5 credits with the project, but if you want to expand the project, then it becomes a 10 credit course. So your work is also in that case rewarded. So the workload represents the credits and the credits represent the workload.
Yes, thank you for the questions. I think it's time to finish now, and hopefully we will see you soon at Aalto.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.